What's up, guys? Welcome to Podcast 412, Fight for Purity. A bold way of looking at challenges that young people are facing. We'll talk about the naked truth of life and how to handle the problems you're thinking but not talking about. So strap in, get ready for another great podcast.
Okay, welcome back, you guys. We're going to continue our conversation on conversations and talking. So
The do's and don'ts.
the do's and don'ts, and so we were talking when we left. We were talking about facts and opinions, and I kind of wanted to delve into that a little bit more. One of the things I said earlier was that when I wanted to know something when I was growing up, we had to go to a library and go look stuff up, and look, like, and I don't even know if people, I don't know if people read anymore, or do they read books, or, we have ebooks, but it's like.
Well, if you drive by, there's the library here in town, that new one that they put up, on Central and Unser, if you're in Albuquerque. And when you drive by, you don't really see too many cars over there. And I know, like, librarians, like, love, knowledge, and they're always trying to, like, promote it, and they're always offering, like, programs and stuff like that. And I think it's like you said, it's literally a building filled with knowledge and, like, stories. It's like, I remember when like, I used to love to go to my school library, not necessarily to learn, but but I used to love reading. Like, I would go and I would spend my lunch. I was that nerdy child, and I'd spend my lunch in the school library, and I would just read. If I couldn't check books out for whatever reason, I would just go grab a book and I would read. We'd go to Barnes and Noble, I remember, because for whatever reason we wouldn't go to the library. We went to Barnes and Noble. I'd find me a book, go get a spot, and I'd just sit there, and I would just read. But kids don't do that. I don't really see kids, even at Barnes and Nobles. I don't even really see people, like, reading.
I think what they do, is what I see a lot is video games.
Yeah.
I think that's what a lot of kids spend time, and there's no Well, I'm sure there's some form of learning when you're playing video games, but like I said before, you lose that face to face, that conversation, and I think that this last part about just knowing facts and opinions, facts are true, but so many people now, all they have is opinions. And, when you have an opinion, you can't back it up other than, like, I think like we said last week, you might say that chocolate is the best ice cream, and I might say strawberry is the best ice cream. And we can argue all day long, but that's your opinion. I might like strawberry and you might like chocolate, and we can argue.
Friends.
Yeah.
Because we have different
Because
opinions
we have
on that.
different, but it's an opinion. I can't prove that strawberry is the better, tasting ice cream. There's no way, but I can feel very strongly about it.
What's funny is you can find a group of people that like strawberry better than chocolate.
Yeah.
And you guys can say it's facts because there's a big group of you who are all saying the same thing. But I can do the same thing. I can go and gather my own group of people, and talk about how chocolate's the best.
Yeah.
And we can say it's fact because everybody's saying it.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of what's happening today is so many people are, because it's a large group of people or it's the popular or, like, most prominent group of people who are saying the same thing, it must be facts.
Yeah, and it's not. Just because a bunch of people are saying it doesn't mean that it's fact. So and we could talk about this, I think, a lot, forever and ever. Were you going to say something? Yeah.
Well, even I had seen some videos too, just, that doesn't enrich me, just kidding. But, they're going around asking, even in college campuses, but they're just even asking, like, younger generations, like, name me 3 countries, and they couldn't name them. It took forever. And then they named Canada, and then they started naming, they said North Carolina and some other state in the United States. And then he's like, I'm going to finish off with this question. And he's like, name me 3 Kardashian sisters. And it was like they got them quick, like right away. Or even just on college campuses, a lot of people don't know stuff, or you know, even just stuff that you should know, like with even your rights of the Constitution. I know we had talked about our rights before, or, you know, it reminds me of Matilda, you know, that movie Matilda, and she's like always in there and she like knows all this stuff, you know, just by reading and researching stuff on her own, you know. And I noticed with my kids too, when they're in the video games, I know they can learn stuff, but I don't think it's like really learning, because it's like a false reality almost, because even with some of the violent games, like they don't have the reality of stuff, because it's not true, you know, the way the games depict stuff. I know they try to make things realistic, but in the way that they view the world through it, like I think sometimes even with murdering, I don't know, look at, you know, but they don't see the reality of it, and you know, and how harmful it is, because the video games kind of take away from, you know, reality of what's factual, and well, I guess would turn into their opinion that it's not that bad.
Even with like being knowledgeable, I've noticed that like even in like the movies, it's like shown in like a really bad light. So it's like you're a nerd because you want to learn, and like so you're just so it's like somehow skewed, and like being like the rebellious person is like the cool way to go, and you're seen as awesome, but in reality it's just like, what are you doing? Like, why are you making those decisions? Like, how is that going to benefit you in your future?
Yeah.
Like,
And again, like, we're not having conversations. You know, you're playing a game with somebody, you know, and you are interacting to a point, and you're connecting with another gamer, you know, and but
It can't be your only way to
yeah,
have
I
conversations.
feel like again you're isolating yourself, because you're not out there breathing some air, you know what I mean? You're not having a conversation. And one of the things that I noticed, like when we were talking about all this list, was if I could put it in a nutshell, like if I could condense it, I would say that to me it kind of spells out like humility. Like you have to enter into a conversation with just humility, you know, with not thinking that you're better than somebody, not coming with excuses, you know, not like all the things that we mentioned, like not gossiping, not being negative, not complaining, you know, not exaggerating things, you know, with, you know, having facts and opinions, or knowing the facts between, you know, but it's coming with that humility with somebody, that when you're going to have a conversation with somebody, leave all that behind, you know, and come with that attitude that you're gonna you're gonna listen, and you're gonna have a right attitude, and you're not gonna make excuses when somebody's talking to you. You know, if you're gonna have a conversation with somebody, you're not gonna do that. You're not gonna be judgmental. You're just gonna take it. I was reading, one of the things I think as people that we have to understand is that we're gonna be wrong sometimes. You know, we're gonna be wrong sometimes. Sometimes we're gonna have attitude. Sometimes we're gonna think wrong. You know, sometimes, you know, and we need to be able to take correction. We need to be able to have somebody like, you know, tell us things. And I think that's where this whole thing comes in through, is that when you do have those conversations, that you have to come with that humble mindset.
Well, and there's growth in communication too, because you might actually like chocolate covered strawberries, you know, or like both, you know, if you don't ever look at anyone else's point of view, then you just have a skewed point of view, and you'll just shut everyone else out if you're not open to listening to anybody else, you know. So communication, like, it brings growth, you know, and you learn stuff, you know. It's not always like it's like a I know mentality, you know. I know that, or, you know, my view's right and your view's wrong. And, you know, sometimes I've noticed, even when I've had conversations with people in my family, like, they're set, you know, and it's like a wall's built up, and I can't effectively communicate, and then you just get frustrated, and it's like, well, what's the point of talking to you, you know, if you're just gonna shut me out? If you just know everything. You know?
If you're gonna make excuses, or if you're going to, because when you talk to somebody, you can't, you know, it's hard to have somebody correct you and you not make an excuse. You know, well, I you know, because of this, or because of that, or because you made me mad, or because, you know, whatever the situation is, you know, we all have to come to that, you know, when you have a conversation. And hopefully the conversations aren't always, you know, about correcting. Sometimes those conversations can be to encourage somebody, you know, and sometimes that conversation might include you not saying anything, like you just being silent and just, okay, I'm not gonna say anything. I'm not gonna, spit out what I'm feeling right now. I'm not gonna, respond in anger. So I think that that's like important to just, like I said, if I could sum it up, that's how I would sum it up. Would be just that you come with humility with each other, and not think that you're better than somebody else.
Yeah, and I think that when you first start off like that, because I'm totally guilty of doing the 7 things we're not supposed to do in conversation. Absolutely guilty. In like 90% of my conversations, but just it takes like a very aware mental choice when you're gonna go into conversations with people. And we're not talking like like about day to day, how was your day, kind of conversations. It doesn't mean you have to like think long and hard about every time you interact with somebody. But it's just being aware that when you are talking to people, your family, your friends, your coworkers, that you're not being extra negative, that you're not just gossiping about somebody, that you're not making excuses for how you're acting or how you said something or reacted to everything. And I think something too about those 7 things is that it's not just in your conversations with other people, it's conversations with yourself. Because we've said in previous episodes that we tend to talk to ourselves, which is it's fine. But like when we're by ourselves, we do tend to talk very negative about ourselves. We're very judgmental. We're very hard on ourselves. And sometimes, yes, we need to be because, we're being lazy and stuff. But it shouldn't be all the time. Because like Ted was saying in our last episode about how negativity actually has like a physical impact on your body. It makes you sick. It makes you gain weight. You literally stop being able to think because you're just giving yourself negative talk, or you're only talking about yourself in opinions, not facts. You're saying, well, I think I'm ugly. That's not a fact. That is an opinion. I think I'm stupid. That's not a fact. That's an opinion. Those are things that we have to check ourselves for, to make sure that we're not getting stuck in those 7 things not to do in a conversation when we're talking to ourselves, whether out loud or in our own head. So I think, but I wanted to say that out there, that we all have, we have to apply those rules to our own conversations within ourselves.
Yeah, I don't think we think about that either. I think kids too are so hard on themselves too. Like, if they mess up or someone says something, I've noticed like with my kids is sometimes if they do something or they like, well, I'm just a bad kid, or and it's like, nobody said that. So when you have conversations with people and maybe they don't agree with your opinion, that's not rejection. They're not like rejecting you. They just have a difference in opinion. Mm-hmm. And I think sometimes like kids are just hard on themselves too, and as adults, I think we're hard on ourselves too, or we don't want to approach a situation because we don't want to be uncomfortable, or we don't want that rejection or let down. So I think sometimes we shy away. And when I grew up, I didn't have good communication skills, so I'm having to learn that with my kids now. So I'm having to break that within myself and not pass that on to my kids, and teach them how to communicate. And so I think as an adult, it's carried on. So like if you don't learn how to effectively communicate with other people, it affects you in the future too. And then, if a boss has to correct you for something, you get upset, or you take it as they hate me, or they don't like me, or whatever, and it's just correction. Because we don't always do everything right either, and we're not always right.
Just kidding.
No, we're not perfect. I'm just kidding.
And then I think one last thing I wanted to say too was, maybe you don't have anybody that you can like really have a good conversation with. There's always prayer. That's something that I don't think sometimes we think about, is that you can talk to God. You can have a conversation. And I think Sarah mentioned this a couple of weeks back about, it doesn't have to, you don't have to go in a certain way, or you don't have to have a certain posture, just come like as who you are, and have that conversation with God. If you're struggling, or if you don't, maybe you don't have a good home, or maybe you don't have, good friends, but you can always go to God, and God always will listen to whatever it is, even if it's to complain. You know, you're not going to make God mad because you're complaining, you know, because you don't like your situation or you don't understand why, you know, you're at or why you're struggling, but you can still come to God.
Then he already knows. Like, he already knows your situation, but he does like for us to go to him and to talk to him and to be able to confide in him. Although sometimes you feel like you won't get an answer, but the answer will come. It'll be there.
Maybe not in the way that you think, but it'll be there. Yeah, it'll be there. It'll be like, I don't know why, but it reminded me of whatchamacallit, Lilo and Stitch. When Lilo's praying about how she wants an angel, and Stitch comes. I mean, when you think about it, I mean, I'm sure it wasn't the angel she thought, like.
It's not quite what she was imagining.
And then, but she was grateful for it, like, and it's the same, I guess, kind of when you talk to God. Sometimes, you know, you might not get the answer necessarily like right away or in the way that you thought, but it really is helpful when you pray, especially when you don't have anybody. It's very helpful, and it's like the biggest thing that I learned is when you're talking to God is like, it's like talking to your dad or to a dad. You know, you don't like how you were saying, you don't have to say like, you know, these and thous and the Catholic RR. Yeah, you ain't gotta say the Catholic prayer and throw holy water on yourself or anything. You just talk like how we're talking right now. Basically, just talk like this, casual, however the hell you feel like. But however you feel like, how you normally talk, and just say whatever you're dealing with, and you know, you can cry, heck, you can yell, and you can be angry, and it's okay. You gotta get it out. If you have nobody else, you know, to talk to, or that's the biggest thing with prayers. It's very helpful.
Yes, it is. And especially, I mean, maybe you don't, you know, necessarily know how to approach it. You know, you're not familiar. Maybe you're not somebody that goes to church, or you've never seen any, but, you know, just like we said, just talk to God. I know I used to pray when I was really young. Not like, I didn't have like a formal prayer, but like in the situations that I was in, I would just pray for God to help me, you know, or help my mom, or help, you know, whatever the situation was, you know. And like she said, you know, I didn't get an answer, like, at that moment, you know, but, like, you know, it does help. If you get it out there and you put on the table, you know, God does hear. You know, I can guarantee that God hears, you know. And especially if you're sincere and you really want to know, you know, God is there. So that's something I wanted to put out there, because maybe you don't have anybody that you can confide. So, but yeah.
And there's not that fear of someone going and spreading all your business.
Yeah.
You know, like, God just hears you, and he cares, and he loves you, and then you don't have everything built up in you, all that negativity and stuff. You know, it doesn't, like, I mean, it's like venting and just letting it all out. You know, so that's been nice for me, because I used to build up until I would explode. You know, I would, like, it's like I'd vomit on everybody, you know, my anger, you know, so you don't have to, like, hold that all in and make yourself sick.
Yeah, so we kind of wanted to, I think that's what we wanted to end it on, was just that if there's nobody else, God is there. And so don't be afraid to approach God, because God's more than willing to listen, you know. And I think that's the biggest thing that we're missing as young people and people in general, is just having somebody that listens, you know. And so we all have to learn to listen, but always know that God is always going to listen to you. God's never going to turn you away. And so God always has an open ear to hear whatever it is that you're going through. So we're just going to end it on that. All right. Thank you guys for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Thanks for listening. Join us for our next podcast. You can contact us through Instagram at podcast412 or email us at 412fight@gmail.com. See you next time.